Well, good morning. It's another beautiful day. Spring is coming, and I have Atlas with me today. We're headed over to the bus, maybe get some work done on the bathroom walls. But first I need to run over to our accountant, make sure we get our taxes filed, other errands, maybe Home Depot for some bolts for the bus. We're gonna take the truck today. The Jeep is still up on the lift. The wheel spacers are on their way from Amazon. Hopefully they'll be here by the time I get back to this area. But yeah, it's a beautiful morning. It's perfect weather. It's like 55. It's dry. Really nice. And this will be our driver today. I gotta pump up this tire. Don't let me forget to do that. Ready to go for a ride, Alice? Yeah. What are you doing? Waiting patiently? Yeah. Ugh. Okay, so in order to install the walls, I'm making it a point to try and reuse some of these clips and hardware that were in here. Obviously, I'll get new bolts, but let me show you what I'm talking about. These clips here, I'm gonna see if I can get some of those from Luke or somebody. I doubt it, but maybe. But they're mostly in place. So they take these little fine thread machine screws, and I'm gonna get some of these probably with hex heads. I don't love using Phillips and stuff. I don't really care if they stick out either. That's fine with me. And that's gonna hold on my side paneling. These also fit these inserts here, which are all throughout the bus. I'm not sure, if I should use those or if I should use self-tappers through here. I don't know yet, but the point is I'll have a bunch of these screws available to use them if I see fit. Now on the ceiling where we're connecting our walls, so say right here, for example, we have to go straight up. We have some ribs here and there. I might have to add some wooden ribs in between. But these ribs, again, have these machine screws, but there's also a larger one here. I didn't remember taking this size out, but I'll have to figure out what that is because I could, again, use those. And when I'm saying L brackets, I'm talking about these. So you can see that's how they held the original wood in. It makes sense. It's a good way to work on buses. I've seen lots of conversions built out, and this is a great way to do it. So I'm gonna get some of those. Obviously, self-tappers into the plywood, or just, I should say, not even self-tappers, but just wood screws into the plywood is our solution for going down. And our solution for going up is a combination of self-tappers and these. So time to make a Home Depot run for those. I'm pretty well cleaned out in here. I'm gonna move a couple more of those little brackets and stuff, but I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing. And I've cleaned out over there as well to give me a nice workspace. That was all firewood at the beginning of the season. All right, guys, I was walking through and I noticed that this window here was already loose. All the bolts were out. So these bolts down here, and then there's 1, 2, 3 that look like this. They're all brass and they're very stuck in the aluminum. But anyway, that one came out, and I just got a new impact driver, and I'm using a socket and an adapter to a small impact grade flathead. And I just got this one out, and I did pre-soak these in WD-40, or PP Blaster actually. You can see the aluminum corrosion in all those threads. Pretty crazy. But it did come right out with this impact driver, so I'm hoping I can do that, at least for these broken ones. I got one broken one there. I got one very broken one there. And I know that I said in other videos that I'm not gonna take these windows out. I'm just gonna seal them, but if this works well, they come out really easy. The big concern was that we're gonna break these brass screws or they're just all gonna strip. But that came out in 2 hits and then it threaded out by hand. So I'm gonna try a few more. And if they do come out easy, it's gonna be worth our while to remove them all and paint the seams and put in new gaskets. Because the gaskets are really bad. Let me show you those. So you can see the gasket material here is just cracked all the heck. And I was just gonna run caulking along that, after we sand and repaint. I mean, there's giant chunks missing. But if they can come out without too much effort, you know, it's worth it to do it right. So I think I'm gonna play a little more with these, see if I can get these out. I'm gonna do one of these ones next. I'm gonna try this one next, which I might want to be using the bigger bit. I'm not sure. Let's try it with this one. So now we should be able to lift kind of upward. Ah, there we go. So the whole thing went up. Now we come down just a bit. Set that out like that. And there it goes. So that's that. Windows out. And you can see that gasket's just terrible. You know, I think for that amount of time it makes sense to pull these out because look at the state of this. It's pretty bad. Let's see. Just tons of junk. This is all steel down here on this part. So, all right. We're gonna do it. We're gonna pull all of them out. Everyone's coming out. The two broken ones are definitely getting repaired. We'll make them all slide nice and whatever. Might not replace all the glass yet. It's just so expensive, you know, because of the delamination, but it's just so expensive. So on we go. Let's keep chugging. So I got 4 out so far, and it's a good thing we did. You know, this whole area is going to need some pretty significant attention. Some areas are going to need some Marglass. There's some pinholes. They're really, really, really small. They're not worth trying to weld up. So, but we'll smooth out. You can just see the damage here from the water sitting, old sealant and whatever. So we'll take them all out and get them resealed. It's just the right thing to do. So we're back. It's wall day, and the wall around the bathrooms is finally going up. 3 walls. We're gonna be 3 walls per room, and I'm thinking that we're probably gonna balloon frame these in place. So I'm just gonna start with the base plate, get that sorted out, and then go up to the ceiling stud by stud so it matches the ceiling ribs. And that way we'll just do one at a time and connect them with various structural supports in between. Some of you will say this wall is probably overbuilt. Some of you might think it's underbuilt. I'm going for overbuilt because I'm putting the inverter on this wall, very likely, on the back side of it, and it's a very heavy inverter. So I just want to make sure that it'll not vibrate around too much and, you know, the wall will hold it. I'm going to try and use this 2x3 stock here from the trusses, that old video that you guys saw a while back. I want this wall to be strong. It's going to be plywood on one side, real plywood, probably birch, and maybe paneling on the inside where the bathroom is, just to save some weight. You know, we have a lot of weight going into this bus. Just the sink, which arrived recently, is 30-inch fire clay sink. It is heavy, very heavy. So I'm trying to be conscious of that as I build. Some combination of lightness and strength is pretty important. So, got those, got wood, got tools. Let's get started. Okay, so what I'm planning with this particular base plate is I need to make it so the wall lines up directly with the rib. But what we have is this little overhang right here, which isn't a big deal. So I could just screw this in and glue it and never worry about it. But see, as you can see, you're putting a lot of, you know, issue there with it wanting to fall off. So I'm just going to use a couple of my L brackets. Get those nice and level on here as like shelving brackets essentially, so that'll hold up the wall a little more stable. So I'll have screws going down into this plywood feature here, L brackets going through with the self tappers into this metal plate, and then we can go up the wall with a nice sturdy base plate. That's the plan. So I'm just gonna do a quick test screw right near the edge of this because I'm not sure if there's metal under here. So I want to be sure that my screws can go in really, really close to the edge. All right, so we do bump into what appears to be metal. This is actually like a rubber that I've forgotten about. But I am gonna leave it in place. There's no reason for me to try and pull it all up. You know what? Not being smart, let's turn around. So we can see on this side, right here, that there is plywood there, and it looks like there is screws, but they must have been self-tappers. So no problem, we're just gonna have to use self-tappers. No big deal. So there's what it looks like below with the two brackets. So with that in place, I'm gonna put a couple of, like I said, self-tappers in, and then I'm gonna do my verticals, which we're gonna come up off the base plate, and we're gonna go right up to this curved rib right here. I'm gonna start with my wall plate to just go right up to that instead of trying to cut around it. So I think that's what I'll do. But the other piece of this bus that's part of the puzzle here, these walls, I don't know if you guys can tell, they are not straight. They do curve in, like so, just a touch. And when I say curve in, they're not like this. They're like this. It's a curve. This entire rib is a curve. So that's okay. I should be able to sink my wall plate. I should be able to sink my stud right into that curve. These aren't that strong, so that they should bow in nicely. And it really doesn't matter at the end of the day, because these are hidden studs. As long as I have something to screw my plywood to, that's why they exist, as well as strength. So let's get started on that, because the uniqueness of this one is I'm going to try and reuse these 3 speed nuts here, and also this one on top, which I haven't found the correct size for yet. I think that'll be an interesting experiment, because if it's easy, I'll do it on all of them. If it's really hard, we're going to switch over to self-tappers and L brackets. On we go, let's give it a shot. Tucker, where are you? So Tucker's here with us today, checking it out. Hey, can you come tell me what you think of my work? Come here. What's that? Come on, I want your opinion. Oh, okay, just leave me. All right, my holes are drilled. These are pretty rusty, so a little bit of PB to help them out. It's gonna be a good thing. And I think I'm gonna try and do a quick little pre-thread with these to make sure that I'm happy. And these also might be too long. The selection of 1032 machine screws at Home Depot is quite poor. Huh. Are these so rusted that there's no threads left? So what I'm running into, guys, is I think these are just too rusted, and because it's a 10 32 machine screw, which is very fine. As soon as you get rust, those threads are basically non-existent. And I guess I should have known that. The issue isn't on all these though. This one's rusty, where these ones are not at all. So I could definitely still use these, but is it gonna be worth it to fight with these things? I think we need to look at our options here. So this is my number 10 or 12 self-tapper, which I'm going to be using in a bunch of locations. I think it's a 12. And it is way too big for these. And I bet it would bite nicely in there. And I wouldn't have to worry about cross-threading because it's just going to create its own threads, and I'm not dealing with machine screws that are fine. I can get these in all sorts of different lengths. I think a run to the hardware store, that's gonna be better for us. So those are too short. So here's the solution. We're gonna switch over to these self-tappers, and they're gonna be about a 1/2 inch or an inch longer than these machine screws. And then we'll be able to put this piece of wood on. Our Home Depot run, we're just leaving the store, and I had to go a little crazy with self-tappers because all of these are compromised. Really what I want is this 2 3/4 with a hex head and coarse thread. Now this supposedly will do what I want it to do. It actually says for wood to metal, so it's specifically for my application. But I don't like the fine thread, and I don't like the Phillips head. So if I don't like that, we have these to try, but they might be too short, and they honestly might be too big. Being a 14, it might just destroy those little speed nuts. I don't know. And then we have these, which I know are too small for the speed nuts, but so remember, these have to do two purposes, these screws. Going down through the 2x4 into the floor, which we know has a small bit of plywood and then some metal. So I needed those pretty long. So those are traditional. And then I got, really long, which is good to make sure I can grab the side studs, the side walls. And these are a 12. So those might be better than these green ones for the speed nuts on the side, as well as the fact that they're longer. However, I'm gonna have to pull these stupid roofing rubber washers off. So every one of those is a compromise. I'll see which one I like best for our purposes. Okay, well, after some finagling, we have a winning combination. And you can see we were able to sink that curve right into the 2x without any real trouble. And the combination is this. So these are a size 14 by 2.5 self-tapper. Those with a 7/16 pre-drilled hole where my speed screws are, tore right into the speed screw and created their own new threads and sunk down nice into the wood without stripping out the speed screws. So that's a success for those. Secondly, the winning combination is these. The only thing I don't like is this is Phillips driven, but to get this length, again, this is 2.5, but also this thin, you had to go with Phillips. And the reason I did that, this is a winning combination for being on the edge of the 2x's without causing any splitting. So these went right down in without pre-drilling, through the plywood below and through the metal bracketry underneath. So that's nice and tight. The combination for the bottom is those little tiny self-tappers I already showed you guys. I want to say they're a 10 by 1.5 inch. So those went right through, and they're mostly grabbing the metal here, but there's probably some metal behind. I think it's like angle iron behind. And then as we went up, since there were no more speed nuts, I pre-drilled these two because, again, with the Phillips, it's really hard. As soon as you bite something, the drill bit wants to spin. So I pre-drilled in the wood, and then the self-tapper went into these two ribs of the aluminum. And that has my connection there. And I'm probably going to do at least 2 more right here in the middle somewhere. And that is connected. That is not going to go anywhere. It's super strong. I can stand on this and wobble back and forth, nothing's happening. So despite, hanging off the edge, those little L brackets are all you need along with that. I think the curve there is not the L brackets, it's just a slightly warped piece of wood. But again, this is gonna be inside a wall, it won't matter. So now we can come across and finish our Frankenstein here. And what's really nice about this particular bay, we got lucky, we have 2 ribs. So this is gonna be my electrical conduit rib. So I'll be able to bring my wires down completely hidden and then splay out and have an outlet near the toilet and an outlet under the sink. And I'm thinking just 2 outlets in here is more than enough, really. It's just a bathroom. And as well as lighting is gonna splay out of here as well. Probably a light switch somewhere in this area. And then, of course, lighting will come up and over down into your toilet room. So I've made a decision that all the house wiring is gonna be up hidden behind the tin on both sides. It makes sense, there's already harnesses there. It's a perfect spot for house wiring as well. So let's keep going with construction on this now that we have a winning fastener combination. Oh, what didn't work, as I suspected, was these. They say wood to metal self-tappers. The self-tapper, these are a 12, not a 14, and they're fine thread, and they're Phillips, so a bunch of things I don't like about them. The worst thing, though, is because they're fine thread, even though they were grabbing, these stripped out, not the... Those threads are flattened. So not the speed nuts in the bus, not these guys. But what stripped out was this terrible bolt. So this is garbage. So that was, I kind of figured that might happen. So, oh well. Not gonna use those. And hopefully, I'm not gonna use these 3 inchers either. So these are my winning 2 right here. At least on stud construction, we're not gonna use the machine screws. We might still use machine screws on these non-rusty ones to hold paneling in place, but we're not going to use it for studs. So now we know what works, and we can continue our construction. All right, so I'm moving on to the top plate, and I've seen this method before in these busts with the curved ceilings, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's okay, I guess. Really, the main benefit of this is just when you're bringing up your wall plywood, it gives you more meat to bite onto, so you're not trying to screw self-tappers into the ribs. So this gives you a little more play space, I guess. And secondly, I think what could work nicely about it is when we bring our studs up, instead of trying to toenail them in like you would with a traditional wall or whatever, you could use your either your 90-degree angle brackets, or you could use some straight, like truss material type stuff, or straight plates there with screws. So there's a lot of different ways you could hold it together, I guess, which, I don't know. I'm not convinced on that one I just did. I might have been a little overzealous with how many cuts I put in it, but man, that was a heck of a curve. We had like a large amount of gap there. So I'll try and run some studs up now to get us sorted out with kind of what we're doing. The reason this ended is twofold. One, it's way too much of a curve, and 2, I'm gonna put my first stud right there. So it worked out well. I'm not sure what these are gonna be on center yet. Traditional 16 on center, no, they're gonna be closer than that. Maybe 8 or 10, or I'm not really sure, but again, on this side of the wall, right here, there's gonna be 200 pounds of stuff. Water heater, inverter. I mean, it's gonna be heavy, so I really want it to be a strong wall. Well guys, we finally have one. So that's the back side of the bathroom wall. And it all went together pretty well. It took a lot longer than I'd hoped, but that's because balloon framing and using screws instead of a nail gun. Everything was cut unique because of the curve and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of hardware in there, but it is very solid and I'm happy with it. I changed my mind. I did do 16 on center in the center bay because the inverter I have is for a household, so I didn't remember where the mounts on the back of it were. If I need to do something surface mount on the wall, it doesn't matter. And since I have plywood instead of sheetrock, I can really mount it anywhere with wood screws, but I just figured it was smart to do 16 on center there in the middle. I know a lot of stuff's not straight. The center pieces I didn't level. It's not worth my time. It you know, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all about strength, not about straightness. So that's straight. It's going to be covered in plywood and it'll be beautiful. Now, I got to do the same exact wall here. And then I'll work on the front wall. All right, guys. So the second wall's up. It went really fast. And that's because I changed my method. So on this wall, I wanted it to be sort of traditional, how you would frame a house with all these center supports. You don't necessarily need those in a bus because the plywood is structural. And you're going to use plywood on the walls instead of sheetrock. So not necessary, but I wanted to do that knowing how much weight's going to be pulling on this wall. Likewise, that's why I wanted a top plate. So much weight's going to be pulling over on this wall. A lot of weight right here. I really wanted it to be strong. However, it took forever. And it's really the only place in the bus I need to do that. So on this side, I switched to what I'm calling bus method. And I used the L brackets. I used a few self-tappers. And as you can see, I'm not doing any center supports because the piece of plywood that's going on this is going to join this whole wall together. So any sort of, you know, sideways motion that you have, even though there's not that much really, will be solved by the plywood. So really, you're at 4 sticks versus all of that. And simple connection points. So self-tappers, double screwed here, double screwed in the wood, single screwed in the ribs. It's not moving. And no top plate, so nothing to curve or be weird about. So really, this is a better construction method for inside the bus. And like I said, that's the only wall that I need to be really, really strong. Bree and I have opted out of the bench here just because I realized that waterproofing this window would be really complicated. So we're just going to shrink the shower back down. The shower going up will be this style construction. And it's just going to go really, really fast. So I'm super excited about that. Next thing I got to do is my floor plate here. And I do need a top plate going across, which is going to be this sort of construction, just like these original ribs. Use some L brackets, bring one across, and then I'll be able to have my small wall here. It's not going to be very big because I want the door opening to be pretty large. So I'm pretty happy with that, guys. And even though we're not done, I want to give you some sort of semblance of scale here. So not a huge space, right? However, if my door is going to be somewhere over here in my right arm, plenty of room to walk through regardless of your size. And there'll be enough room to turn and sit. And not big, but it's enough. And right here is going to be our corner mount sink. So even if I put a vanity under there, tons of leg room. Sink goes there. I think this is a perfect size. And what's coming next? Well, we got to finish the shower. That'll be a different video, I think. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how much footage I have right now. And then wiring and then insulation. So the shower might be a separate video, like I said. It might be a time lapse that's coming right now. So yeah, guys, that's it. If you're liking what you're seeing, please consider liking, subscribing the channel. Make sure you ring the notification bell. And secondly, if you could comment, I'd love some interaction. I'm interested in feedback. If you guys like what we're doing, if you think it's stupid, I don't care. I want to hear. So I love talking about this bus and our plans. So like always, thanks for watching.